Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The Independent Corrupt Practice and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, has invited the immediate past Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, to appear before a federal high court, Abuja, to explain his role in the alleged misapplication of 2.5 billion naira federal government digital switchover DSO program money. Recall that the ICPC is prosecuting the Director General of the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, Ishaq Modibo Kawu, over alleged abuse of office and money laundering. So joining us now today to discuss this and more is BABTUNDE OGUNGBAMILA, partner, head dispute resolution, OLISA AGBAKOBA legal firm. Welcome to the morning show. Great to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning once
again.
again.
Thank you for having me.
You had that intro. Just to give us better clarification, would the former minister be appearing as a witness or as an accused person when he appears in July?
He's actually going to appear as a witness, as a prosecution witness. A prosecution witness is simply a witness, someone called by the prosecution to testify in support of the prosecution case against the defendants, and that is the accused person.
Who's the accused person now?
The accused persons are the
NBC.
DG of NBC and directors of Pinnacles Communication.
I mean, take us through this matter. We've been talking about a digital switchover, and this case has been persistent. You remember the former NBC, head too was involved, at some point. The same digital switchover money, Emeka Mba. I mean, so it's as if it's a recurring decimal. Now again, another 2.5 billion digital switchover. What's really happening? And we're not even seeing the digital switchover. That's the funny part.
Well, but perhaps that is why you have the trial, because it is obvious that money is not being spent as it should. It is obvious that some people are not doing what they actually collected money for. It is also obvious that something is fundamentally wrong. The case is prejudice, or sub judice rather, and I will not.
Can you explain that to our listeners?
A case sub judice when the matter is on in court.
Okay.
But one thing I just want to clarify here is that the minister is not on trial. The minister is not on trial. Or the headlines suggest otherwise, but the minister is not on trial. It's not as if he's being called or to come and that if he's found guilty, he will go to jail. No, a charge has not been preferred against him. Investigation was carried out. ICPC chose those to prosecute, chose its own witnesses, those who will give witness in support of his case, perhaps to obtain conviction or as the court will decide. But the truth here is that the minister is not on trial, the minister is the prosecution witness, and that should be out there.
Indeed, but he was superseding the ministry, and the statement from the ICPC website, which I have some excerpts of it, says the minister's involvement had come under questioning following discovery by ICPC during investigations that a government white paper that governs the execution of the DSO program was allegedly flouted by the head of NBC. And that's the minister's jurisdiction,
yes.
The Ministry of Information. The fact that his name has been mentioned and an investigation was carried out to involve him. Let's talk about the fight against corruption under President Muhammad Buhari. Is this a boost for a fight that has been seen largely as lopsided? Do you think that this is a boost for President Muhammad Buhari, that his one-time minister is being investigated or his ministry was investigated?
Okay. That a ministry is investigated, I do not think is a problem on its own. It shows that something is going on and that a watchdog is here. And for me, it shows one basic thing, that anybody, no matter who you are, you will be held accountable for your stewardship Yes, it may sound like you have the head of ministry where corruption is allegedly to have taken place. It's not on trial. But the fact is this. Before arraignments or before preferring a charge against a person or group of persons, investigation must have been carried out because it has to do with taxpayers' money. You just don't rush people to court. After investigation, the prosecution decides who to prosecute, who is actually a culprit in the matter. Yes, there could be negligence on his part. It may not be criminal negligence. So there is no point weakening your case by bringing somebody who you cannot prove your case against. So in this case, you have a minister who, by the reports, is claiming to have been misled by the DG to do certain, the NBC to do certain things. Yes. And now the question is, who misled who?
But what they say in law, ignorance is no excuse.
No, you see, but it has not come to that point.
No, I mean, because, quoting your word now, you said there's a case of him being misled by the DG. It brings to bear the question, when this was done, didn't he make verifications? Didn't he look at the situations of things?
Due diligence?
Didn't he do due diligence?
Okay.
You know, we had a due process office in this country at some point. In fact, Obi Ezekwesili was known as Madam Due Process at first. So didn't he go through due process? Because it looks as though this funds for digital switchover has been a recurrent decimal in this country. It's like a tag on every embassy official that they carry and they wear as a priesthood collar.
Okay, the due process, the negligence, this must have been determined during investigation. Whatever I'm saying now, you see, when a charge is brought against a person, the first thing is that there is a prima facie case against the person, an obvious case against that person. Rightly or wrongly, a tribal case that they feel that, no, you have done this wrongly. Now, it could be the act of misleading that become that offense that they are prosecuting that led to that big crime. So, you see, due process, questions being asked, questions must have been asked, due process must have been followed in court before you prefer a charge. I understand the way we look at it like, look, a fish gets bad from the head. So why should the head not be on trial?
But in some climes, a scandal breaks out like this, the head
No, the head goes.
has to atone for it because it's under, as we say, his jurisdiction, his watch, this happened. In other climes, in saner climes.
You see, to some extent, I agree with you.
Yes.
Absolutely. But this is Nigeria. Oh, this is Nigeria.
Is that supposed to be a
no,
context in law?
I'm not saying this is no law. You see, in other climes,
that phrase, this is Nigeria.
No, I'm saying this is Nigeria because we have different values.
Okay.
You see, they resign. It's not like the law made them resign. No.
It's on moral ground?
It's on moral ground that I can't be here and this is happening. But we've got to a stage in Nigeria where we celebrate anything.
But how do you reconcile that? Because we're talking about moving the nation forward. We're talking about nationalism. How do you reconcile that with other countries where a member of House of Lords resigns his position because he came late for a briefing?
But it has to do, that's what I'm saying.
And so how do we reconcile that on the same threshold of values and morals? Because we keep saying this is Nigeria, and that's what is plunging us to where we are today.
No, I said this is Nigeria within context. I said this is Nigeria within the context of what are our values? What are our values?
Lack of probity?
No, I'm asking, what are our values?
I'm answering you.
Like the question is, there are things that you will do and you feel ashamed and you say, no. That should never happen. But in some climes, even before you say it, the man is off, apologizing. A man came late. He decided to resign. A man stole money. And his people is saying, no, you cannot prosecute him. That he stole our money. It is in Nigeria. So look, when we talk about all this, because there should be a new orientation for Nigeria.
Let me just veer off course a little bit. And this is why you might want to join me on this. I'm just veering off course quickly. I'll come back to this. Is that the same reason why a former governor of a state will stockpile weapons and armory and is finally asked some salient questions and he just wishes it away and no investigation is going on as regards that? Nobody is almost talking about it. It's as though the story has died in the national space. Is this Nigeria?
Oh, but where is it happening? Would this have happened in America? Would this have happened in Britain? But this, look, I say this is Nigeria because it is happening here. And nobody is held accountable for this. And everybody is quiet about it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of people will be wondering and looking out now as we await President Muhammad Buhari's cabinet list, because the minister in question was a former minister in his first term. But this is not the first time a member of President Muhammad Buhari's cabinet would be involved in a scandal, corruption scandal. But I will ask that question when we come back from this break. Let's go on a quick break. The Morning Show returns in just a moment. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on Arise News. BABTUNDE OGUNGBAMILA, partner and head of dispute resolution, OLISA AGBAKOBA legal firm, is still with us in the studios. Before that break, I was going to ask you a question about logical conclusions of corruption cases, because this is not the first time we've had a member of President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet or, entourage that is coming under fire or in the spotlight for corruption scandal. Just bearing in mind the former SGF's case, do you think that there will be a logical conclusion here? Even though you have stated, and just to state it clearly again, that the former Minister of Information is not under trial. But what do you think, what do you make of this case? Would there be a logical conclusion?
Look, for me, everything boils down to the judiciary. Everything. Almost everything in the country.
So the president was right when he says the judiciary is to blame for the slow corruption fight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see, the problems in Nigeria today, in the courts.
The problems in Nigeria in the court?
In the court, because they do not understand the relationship between what is happening in that court and the economy. A man will just sit down there. Cases are before him or her, and the judge will tell you, Santa in around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you've been there since 9. And then the registrar will tell you, take a date. He's gone to a funeral. He's gone to a meeting. Because they don't understand. They don't understand.
So how do we bring probity
into everything?
Into the judiciary? Because we have seen this. But
this is
when we talk about this in the public space, a lot of people will still argue that the judiciary is deliberately painted black because the executive wants full autonomy. Hashtag the arrest of those judges for inducements.
Look, that singular act, do you know how it has changed our judiciary? That singular
harassment of the judiciary?
You see, people talk. Nigeria is a confused country. And we don't know what we want. I don't talk like this. But let me just say it, because I'm fed up too. Look, the first thing is, You talk about a judicial system. A judicial system should be self-cleansing because it underpins development in a nation. And you have a judicial system that is very slow, sluggish, and people do not really trust that system.
Why?
Why? Because that is perception.
Why the perception?
Oh, look, something must have informed it. Look,
What informed it?
Now, look, a businessman comes to Nigeria. Okay, let me just talk about you give a loan. A loan is given of 10 billion to a company. Because we have the tendency of not paying back my own share of the national cake. And then you go to court to recover 10 billion. The case will be in court for 20 years. How? Because you have a judge who sits there like a demigod. He believes that, yes, you are here today, and a lawyer is there because of the loopholes in the law to frustrate the system. At that point, a judge should sit down and say, look, I have a timeline for this case. You want to file your papers, file within this time. And maybe in 1 year, in 2 years, you have judgment. If you go to Court of Appeal today, you have a date for 2020, 2021. At the Supreme Court today, they are still hearing cases of 2004. This is 2019.
What can we do to remedy this?
See, for me, the first thing is that judiciary itself should rise up to that occasion, because if the executive intervenes, the first thing is, the executive wants to pocket the judiciary. But unfortunately in this climate, every problem, we accuse the president. A local government chairman is not performing. Flooding in your area, it is the president. Gridlock, traffic grid, it is the president.
But Harry Truman in America put something on his table. You know what it says? It says the buck stops here. So why shouldn't we call the name of the president?
Oh, yes, and when he intervenes, the first thing is, the president does not respect the rule of law. The president is supporting his ethnic people. Look, we have to tell ourselves the truth. We want change, but we are not interested in that change.
Well, interestingly, some of your colleagues would disagree with you to say that, the lawyers would not be the ones to bring their cases to court when you're talking about corruption. The police, the EFCC, and the rest of them. We have seen cases where the EFCC delays in bringing cases to court. Would you blame the judiciary in that sort of manner?
Look, I'm not talking about what of the cases brought to court. This is my argument. My argument is cases are in court. How could trial go on for 10 years? Something is fundamentally wrong with the system, and we need to face it. We need to ask questions. We are not asking questions. Look, it's beyond rhetorics.
What sort of questions should we be asking, and from who? Where should we start?
Look, people talk about separation of powers. The first thing is we should understand these rules, and we should understand how they now intertwine. Because it's not like separation of powers, separation of powers. Now you have who is responsible for the smooth running of the judiciary.
The CJN.
And probably the NJC. So the question here is, what is the blueprint? Where is it?
But isn't there a platform for a social contract, just like Jean-Jacques Rousseau talked about, between these arms of government, a symbiotic relationship that runs seamlessly?
You see, the social contract is when you vote. A man comes with his manifesto, and you look at it and you say, okay, I believe you, I'm voting for you. He comes to power. to perform his own part of that obligation. He's not doing it. And you cannot vote him out. Why? Because even democracy in Nigeria has its own problem.
What problem?
Yes, because the voters themselves, they will say, oh, the Senate corrupt, politicians are corrupt. The next minute, they will be the one queuing in the house of that politician.
No, that's because of poverty. On that note, we...
I just wonder what all of this portends for the president's fight against corruption in this next level. Just hearing these challenges from the judiciary. But
I think the judiciary should just rise up. Because last dispensation, every arm of government pulling in different directions. And I think we'll all have to come together to salvage this nation.
Thank you very much for coming on the show this morning. And that's it for the show today. I am Adesola Moran.
And I'm Rafai Hussein.
Goodbye.